The text message from Finnick came at 2 a.m. Emergency. Need you tomorrow. Call me. I rolled over in bed, squinting at the bright screen. In 15 years of friendship, Finnick had never sent me a middle-of-the-night SOS. My thumb hovered over the call button before I remembered he was probably in Hong Kong for work. The time difference meant it was early afternoon there. This better be good, I grumbled into the phone. Lioran. Finnick's voice crackled with static. Thank God. I need you to be my husband. I sat up straight, suddenly wide awake. You need me to what now? It's for this massive investment deal? Words tumbled out in his characteristic rapid-fire way when he was excited or stressed. The potential investor is really old school, very traditional. He's all about family values and long-term commitment. When he found out I was gay, he started asking about my husband. And instead of telling him you're single, you invented a spouse? I asked. I panicked. The deal's worth $50 million. It could make or break the company. Finnick paused. Look, he's coming to New York tomorrow for final negotiations. Just one dinner. Please? I rubbed my temples. You want me to fly across the country to pretend to be your husband for a business dinner? I'll book you first class. Please, Lioran. You're the only one I trust with this. He said. That was Finnick, always diving headfirst into situations without thinking them through, then relying on me to help fix things. We'd been that way since college, him with the grand ideas and charisma, me with the practical solutions and steady presence. It worked for us. Fine, I sighed. But you owe me big time. You're the best. I'll text you the flight details. Love you. Finnick grinned. He hung up before I could respond, leaving me staring at my phone and wondering what I'd gotten myself into. The next evening found me in an obscenely expensive restaurant, wearing my best suit and a wedding band Finnick had somehow procured. Mr. Renzo, the investor, was a distinguished-looking man in his 60s who studied me with shrewd eyes. So, Lioran, he said in perfect English, Finnick tells me you're a professor? Environmental science at Berkeley, I replied, grateful we were sticking close to the truth. Lying about my entire profession would have been a stretch. Ah, that must be difficult with Finnick in New York so often. We make it work. I felt Finnick's hand settle on mine where it rested on the table, a practiced gesture that nonetheless made my pulse jump. Modern technology helps. And absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? Mr. Renzo nodded approvingly. How did you two meet? This, at least, we could answer honestly. Finnick launched into the story of our first day of college, when he'd accidentally set off the fire alarm trying to make ramen in our dorm's microwave. I'd been the RA who helped handle the situation, and we'd been inseparable ever since. Lioran's always been there to clean up my messes, Finnick said, his thumb absently stroking my knuckles. The gesture felt so natural I almost forgot it was for show. And what made you decide to get married? I glanced at Finnick, realizing we hadn't prepared for this question. But before panic could set in, the words came naturally. It wasn't really a decision. More like realizing something that was already true. I surprised myself with how easily the lie came. Or maybe it wasn't entirely a lie. Finnick has been my constant for half my life. The person I call first with good news or bad news. The one who knows exactly how to make me laugh when I'm down. Marriage just felt like acknowledging what was already there. Finnick's hand tightened on mine. When I looked at him, his expression was strange, soft and uncertain in a way I'd never seen before. The rest of dinner passed in a blur of business talk and carefully maintained pretense. By the time Mr. Renzo left, looking thoroughly convinced by our performance, we were both exhausted. Drink? Finnick suggested as we watched Mr. Renzo's car pull away. My place is just a few blocks away. I nodded, loosening my tie. God, yes. Finnick's apartment was exactly as I remembered from my last visit, sleek and modern, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. He poured us both generous measures of scotch and we collapsed onto his absurdly comfortable couch. That went well. You were amazing. Especially that bit about why we got married. You almost had me convinced, he said, letting out a long breath. Well, most of it was true. You are my constant. Have been since that damn ramen incident. I took a sip of scotch, letting it burn away the tension of the evening. Finnick was quiet for a long moment. You know what's funny? When I was panicking about what to tell Mr. Renzo, pretending to be married to you was the first thing that came to mind. Not making up some random spouse or saying I was engaged. It had to be you. Something in his voice made me look at him. He was staring into his glass, a slight flush on his cheeks that wasn't entirely from the alcohol. Finnick? I called him. I've been thinking about what you said at dinner. About marriage being about acknowledging what's already there. He set his glass down with deliberate care. What if there's something else we've never acknowledged? My heart was suddenly pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. What do you mean? I mean that pretending to be in love with you tonight was the easiest thing I've ever done. His eyes met mine, vulnerable and uncertain. Maybe because I wasn't pretending at all. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. 15 years of friendship flickered through my mind. Late-night study sessions, supporting each other through bad breakups, holidays spent with each other's families, inside jokes no one else understood. All those moments when my heart had done something funny in my chest when he smiled, when I'd pushed down thoughts I didn't want to examine too closely. How long? I managed to ask. I don't know. Years, probably. But I never let myself think about it because I couldn't risk losing you. You're too important. He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous gesture I knew well. But tonight, pretending to be married to you, it felt right. Like glimpsing a future I never let myself want. I set my own glass down, turning to face him fully. Finnick. My voice was steady despite my racing heart. Ask me to stay. His eyes widened. What? Ask me to stay. Not for a fake marriage or a business deal. Just ask me to stay. I managed to say. He moved closer, one hand coming up to cup my face. Lioran, he whispered, stay. I did. The next morning, I woke to sunlight streaming through those floor-to-ceiling windows and Finnick's arm draped over me. We hadn't done anything but talk and hold each other, gradually falling asleep as the city lights twinkled below. It should have felt strange, this shift in our relationship, but instead it felt like the most natural thing in the world. Finnick stirred, blinking sleepily. Morning, he mumbled, then froze as reality seemed to catch up with him. Oh God, did I ruin everything? I couldn't help but laugh. You got the $50 million investment, didn't you? That's not what I meant and you know it, he said. I turned to face him, taking in the worry lines between his brows, the way his hair stuck up at odd angles. This was Finnick, my best friend, the person who knew me better than anyone else in the world. And now, maybe, something more. You didn't ruin anything, I said softly. But we should probably talk about logistics. I do have a job in California, you know. He propped himself up on one elbow. Berkeley has a sabbatical program, right? And there are plenty of universities in New York. Already planning my relocation? I teased. We haven't even been on a real date yet. Lioran. His expression turned serious. We've been on 15 years of dates. We just didn't know it. And really, what could I say to that? 1 year later, Mr. Renzo attended our actual wedding. He laughed harder than anyone when Finnick included the story of our fake marriage in his vows. I knew there was something special about you too, he told us at the reception. The best partnerships, in business or in life, are built on trust and understanding. You can't fake that. He was right. You can fake a marriage certificate, a wedding ring, even small things. But you can't fake the way Finnick still looks at me like he can't quite believe his luck. You can't fake the comfort of falling asleep next to your love, or the joy of building a life with someone who knows all your stories and loves you anyway. Sometimes the best love stories aren't about dramatic declarations or love at first sight. Sometimes they're about two people who've been walking side by side for years, until one day they look at each other and realize they've been heading toward the same destination all along. That night in the restaurant, when I talked about marriage being about acknowledging what was already there, I didn't know I was telling our future. But here we are, no more pretending, no more hiding from feelings we thought might break us. Just us, facing whatever comes next together. Just like we always have.